So once again, I'm making another video talking about people complaining about the Switch 2 before it's even out, and even just straight up inventing problems. So the topic of today is the Joy-Con connector. So I've seen people all over the internet going on about this connector where the Joy-Con connects to the new Switch 2. And people are going absolutely mad over it, and it's really, really strange. So here's a picture of the Joy-Con connector in question. People are saying that this is a key point of failure. That's what the top post that relates to this has said. That it's going to break super easily, and that children will destroy it immediately. Keep in mind that all we've seen so far is just a rendered video of the console spinning around a little bit. And we haven't even seen footage of a real person with real human hands holding this thing. Personally, I don't see the big deal. It's embedded in the side of the console, so it's probably not going to get damaged when you do one of these. There's a huge amount of plastic around the connector on the Joy-Cons, as you can see here. So most of the shock will probably go into the frame of the console and not into the connector itself, especially if it wiggles, which it looks like it might possibly have a little bit of wiggle to it. And honestly, this isn't the first time that Nintendo has released something with exposed pins or whatever in them. Basically every cartridge that they have ever made has had some exposed pins like this on it. And you don't really see those breaking very often. The SNES cartridge is probably my favourite example of this because it is somewhat similar to the Switch 2. If you look in here, you can see there's exposed stuff in here. You have to jam your finger into it. It's embedded with plastic all around it. So yeah, it's easy to get into this thing, but there's no breakage. And, you know, you can drop these cartridges, and the most that'll probably get broken is the actual internals, or even the shell. One of the biggest arguments I've seen for this is that kids will break it. And yeah, I mean, I do get it. Children are pretty rough with their tech. I was a kid once, and I was pretty rough with my stuff. So I know that quite well. However, I don't think it's Nintendo's job to make compromises to their hardware for the sake of children who don't know how to take care of their things. If you really think this is a concern and you're a parent, you should be making sure that your child knows full well to take care of it. Just like when I grew up, I knew that I shouldn't be doing this with my DS and then snapping it in half. I shouldn't be doing that, so I didn't. And that's because my parents told me, take care of your stuff, we're not going to buy you a new one if you break it. There's also this weird conspiracy theory, which honestly, being on Reddit is nothing new, but a lot of people are saying that this is Nintendo doing planned obsolescence, which I don't think is even the right term in this case, but basically people are saying that they've done this on purpose to make people buy a new console when the Joy-Con connector breaks, which I find really strange. I don't really know where that came from. But even if that was true, it doesn't make any sense why they would do that. They literally announced that the system is going to be backwards compatible with the old Switch games. If they wanted to milk money out of us, wouldn't they just go, sorry, the Switch games are not backwards compatible, you're going to have to buy them again? That would make them way more money than making you buy a new console, which might not even have that big of a margin on it. And on top of that, I'm sure that Nintendo knows full well that they can't get away with this. I mean, look at Joy-Con Drift. Joy-Con Drift has caused a lot of problems for Nintendo. They're having to provide free repairs for quite a long time on stuff. You know, if you bought a Joy-Con all the way back in the day, I believe you can still get your Joy-Con Drift fixed on it because it is considered a design fault, and it happens without any misuse whatsoever. And, you know, if they were going to make the actual console itself faulty, it could have pretty massive consequences for them. If you remember back in the olden days, it's funny saying it as the olden days, but the Xbox 360, if you were a fellow Xbox 360 user, you may remember the dread that was the Red Ring of Death. And I've been reading into this a little bit, and something that I didn't actually know was that the Red Ring of Death actually cost Microsoft nearly $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion. Just on fixing that thing, providing repairs, sending out replacements, shipping costs, whatever. That's how much it cost them, apparently. So if Nintendo were really going to do this, I'm sure that Nintendo know that Microsoft have had to do that. So why would they do that? I probably shouldn't spend too long in this video arguing over a conspiracy theory there. I doubt many of you really think that Nintendo has done this on purpose as a way to make you buy the console again. But I just wanted to bring it up because it's so strange. It's so strange, the tangents that people on Reddit can really go off on. So I've seen a lot of people comparing this to Joy-Con Drift, and I'd kind of like to go on that a little bit more. And I think that this is totally different to Joy-Con Drift. Joy-Con Drift, like I mentioned earlier, is a fault. If it happens to you, it's not your fault, it's the manufacturer's fault because they didn't make it in a way that it would actually last. However, this issue that is being brought up at the moment relating to the Joy-Con connector on the Switch 2 any reason that that would break, I cannot see that being anything other than user error. All that I'm seeing is people arguing over this about potentially misusing it. And it's so strange because it seems like people have seen this console, they've seen this issue, and they've suddenly decided, you know what, I'm going to break this console. It's really what it seems like, because how is it going to break if you're not going to break it yourself? It's not going to break on its own. I don't see any points of failure that would cause any kind of fault. But either way, yeah, personally, I don't believe that this is a design fault. We are yet to see, though. And literally, like everybody else on the internet, I can't say for certain whether this is a design fault or not, and you can't say if it is design fault or not either. It's something that we don't know. Like I said earlier in the video, we've only seen a 3D render of this thing. We don't even know what this connector is made out of. For all we know, it could be made out of titanium. But yeah, in my opinion, this is a non-issue. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. Just use the console properly. I'm way more hyped about the fact that the Joy-Cons are actually going to connect a lot more securely now, because if you've owned a Switch for a while, your Joy-Cons, they probably wiggle a little bit on the side of the console. I know that's happened for most of mine, and that's something that's always really, really annoyed me on the Switch from pretty much day one. So I'm very excited to see that, and I think that issue alone being fixed is definitely worth any potential weak points to me. I do understand, you know, being concerned about this. We have been waiting a very long time for this console, and you know, it does make sense, like, oh, maybe it's not perfectly designed, there were problems with the Switch, but let's not jump on any bandwagons when we really don't know enough to make claims like this. Anyways, I don't think there's anything else to talk about when it comes to this. I hope I'll have more interesting topics to discuss on videos in the future, but for now, that's all I really have to say about this. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and peace.